Hello, my name is Ellie, and I'd like to share a bit about my life with you. I'm 30 years old, passionate about fitness, and I work as an instructor at a local gym. That's where I met Aiden, who started as a regular attendee and soon became much more than that. We had an immediate connection, and before long we were planning our wedding. Aiden has a younger brother named Kevin, a genuinely cool guy, and we became fast friends. However, Aiden's mom, Violet, has been a challenge from the start. She took an instant dislike to me, accusing me of being a gyrat, leading her sons astray. One day, an incident at the gym brought everything to a head. Aiden was lifting weights, Kevin was on the treadmill, and I was coaching a class when Violet walked in unexpectedly. I greeted her cheerfully, trying to keep the peace, but she responded with a cold glare, accusing me of keeping an eye on her boys. I was taken aback, simply trying to do my job, but Violet retorted dismissively about me parading around in tight clothes. Aiden, hearing this, dropped his weights with a loud clang and came over to defend me. But Violet was relentless. "Fair, I see what's happening here," she snapped, condemning my friendly demeanor, especially toward men. Kevin, catching his breath after his run, tried to mediate, but Violet sharply told him not to interfere. As the situation escalated, I attempted to diffuse it by reassuring Violet that I was just working and that there was nothing inappropriate going on. However, Violet continued her tirade, even bringing up my Instagram interactions as evidence of inappropriate behavior. Aiden tried to explain that those were merely clients and friends, but Violet was convinced there was more to it. The confrontation reached a peak with Violet storming out, leaving us in an awkward silence. Aiden apologized and put his arm around me, while Kevin jokingly compared Violet to a bulldog. Although I tried to laugh it off, Violet's accusations hurt me deeply. That night, as Aiden and I lay in bed, he reassured me of his trust, which I appreciated. But the shadow of Violet's doubts lingered over us. This confrontation at the gym was just the beginning of ongoing tensions. During a later family dinner at Aiden's place, the atmosphere was tense. Kevin attempted to lighten the mood by asking about my job, but Violet used the opportunity to make another snide remark about me flirting at work. Aiden, sitting beside me, tensed up and pleaded with his mother to stop, highlighting the ongoing strain in our relationship. Violet's criticisms were unyielding. "I'll say what I need to," she declared sharply. "I've seen those comments on your Instagram, Ellie. Men fawning over you as if you're some sort of trophy." The flush of anger and embarrassment rose in my cheeks as I tried to explain. "Violet, they're just clients and friends from the gym. There's nothing inappropriate going on." She scoffed at my explanation. "Friends? Is that the new term for it?" Kevin stepped in, trying to shield me from her harsh words. "Mom, you're completely off the mark here," he said. But Violet's gaze only hardened as she turned toward him. "And you always defending her. What's really going on between you two?" "Always together, always whispering." Her accusations sliced through the air, heavy and toxic. Aiden's expression was a mix of disbelief and anger. "Mom, what the hell are you talking about?" he demanded. Violet leaned in, her eyes piercing into me. "I'm talking about betrayal, Aiden. Your wife and your brother sneaking around." I was stunned into silence. Her words were ludicrous. "That's a vile thing to say." I managed to get out. "Kevin's like a brother to me." Kevin, visibly upset, added, "Mom, you're completely out of line. Ellie's my sister-in-law, nothing more." Aiden's voice dropped, a dangerous edge to his tone. "Mom, you need to stop." This is ridiculous. But Violet was relentless. Open your eyes, Aiden. I'm just trying to protect you from her. The rest of the meal passed in uneasy silence. After dinner, the tension followed us into the bedroom, where Aiden, shaking with contained rage, confronted me. Ellie, is there any truth to what my mom is saying about you and Kevin? I felt as though I had been slapped. Aiden, are you serious? Your mom's accusations are absurd. You know me, you know Kevin. How could you even entertain those ideas? Aiden paced back and forth, his hands buried in his hair. I don't know what to think anymore, Ellie. My mom's doubts have me questioning everything. I was on the brink of tears. So you're taking her side? You believe her over me? He stopped and looked at me, his expression lost and tormented. I don't know what I believe anymore. I need some time to think. With that, he left the room, leaving me alone, wounded and bewildered. Violet's words had burrowed deep, casting a long shadow over our relationship. I knew then that things between Aiden and me might never be the same. A few months after that fateful dinner, I discovered I was pregnant. This should have been joyful news, but given the circumstances, it felt like yet another complication. I remember the moment I told Aiden. We were in the kitchen, a place that once echoed with our laughter. Aiden, I'm pregnant, I said, my voice shaking. He looked up, his face a blend of astonishment and an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Pregnant? Wow. Are you sure? His reaction stung. Yes, I'm sure. We're going to have a baby. He walked over and embraced me, but even in his hug, there was a tension that hadn't been there before. The future felt uncertain, and Violet's poisonous words lingered, threatening the joy that should have come with our impending new arrival. The air felt tense and unnatural, even more so than usual, as Aiden and I approached Violet's house for our regular Sunday visit. With every step closer, my heart sank a bit more, knowing the news of my pregnancy had already reached her ears. As expected, Violet greeted us with a sharp, piercing look. So I hear you're pregnant, Ellie, she said, her voice laden with skepticism and veiled accusations. Yes, we're excited, Aiden responded, trying to keep the atmosphere light. But Violet's skepticism was palpable. She arched an eyebrow and asked, expecting, huh? And Aiden, you're sure it's yours? Hayden's face tightened with agitation. Mom, don't start this again, he warned. But Violet was relentless. I'm just voicing what everyone's thinking. Your wife has been quite friendly with a lot of men. I was stunned by her boldness. Violet, are you actually suggesting that I've been unfaithful? That this child isn't Aiden's? I asked, incredulity painting my voice. She just shrugged nonchalantly. I'm just looking out for my son. A mother's concern is natural, she claimed. Kevin, who had been silent until then, finally spoke up. Mom, this is ridiculous. You need to stop. Violet shot him a stern look. Stay out of this, Kevin. This is between Aiden, Ellie, and me. The visit only spiraled from there. Violet's continuous insinuations and sly remarks made the atmosphere suffocating. It felt as if she was deliberately trying to sow seeds of doubt in Aiden's mind. By the time we left, the air between Aiden and me was thick with unspoken tension. Back home, Aiden retreated into a shell of silence, his gaze lost to the void. I sat beside him, desperate for him to speak. Aiden, please talk to me, I pleaded. He turned to me, his eyes a turmoil of confusion and pain. Ellie, my mom's words, they're getting to me. I don't want to believe her, but Do you think I cheated on you? That I'm carrying someone else's child. My voice broke under the strain of emotion. Aiden, are you serious? His expression was filled with anguish as he ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of deep turmoil. I don't know what to think anymore, Ellie. It's all just too much. A single tear rolled down my cheek. This time in our lives, which should have been filled with joy and anticipation, was being poisoned by Violet's malice. We went to bed surrounded by a heavy silence, the chasm between us widening. The day our son Mark was born should have been filled with nothing but happiness. Yet, the residue of the ongoing drama tinged it with apprehension. After hours of labor, I was exhausted, and Aiden seemed lost between joy and skepticism. When the nurse handed Mark to me, his tiny face, blonde hair, and bright blue eyes were angelic. "He's beautiful, Ellie," Aiden whispered, though his voice betrayed his ongoing inner conflict. "Yes, he is," I replied, trying to push aside the uneasy feeling brewing inside me. When Violet and Kevin visited, the tension escalated. Violet's eyes narrowed as she took in Mark's features. "Well, isn't he a surprise?" Blonde and blue-eyed, she remarked cryptically. Aiden stiffened beside me, his discomfort palpable. "Mom, what are you trying to imply?" She just shrugged. "Nothing, just an observation." Kevin, cradling Mark, gave me a sympathetic glance. "He's perfect, Ellie," he said. But Violet's words lingered, a veiled challenge that remained unspoken yet deeply felt. This was not how I envisioned the early days of motherhood, surrounded by suspicion and conflict. I knew then that I had to do whatever it took to protect our little family and somehow heal the rifts that Violet's accusations had deepened. The comment from Violet left the room icy with tension. "It's all strange, isn't it? You both have dark hair, and here we have a little blondie," she remarked, glancing at Mark with skepticism. My cheeks flamed with anger, but I managed to reply, "Violet, genetics can be surprising. My cousin has blonde hair too. It's perfectly normal." She just hummed non-committedly, her gaze piercing as she scrutinized me. After they left, the silence in our home grew heavy. Aiden sat quietly beside me while Mark slept peacefully in his crib. "Aiden, please," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Don't let your mom's suspicions poison your thoughts." He looked from Mark to me, his expression troubled. "I know, Ellie. It's just everything she's been saying makes it hard." I reached for his hand, needing to feel the connection. "Look at me, Aiden. I've never lied to you. I've never betrayed you. He's your son." Aiden nodded slowly, his eyes sad. "I know, Ellie. I do. It's just my mom. She knows how to get to me." That night, the tension was almost tangible. Aiden held Mark, looking down at him with a mix of love and possibly doubt. "Aiden, we need to move beyond this," I said firmly. "We're a family now. We can't let your mom destroy that." He nodded. "You're right. I'll talk to her. I'll make things clear." But even as he spoke, I knew resolving this wouldn't be simple. Violet's seeds of doubt had taken root, and they were suffocating the life out of our relationship. Over the next few weeks, our home felt like a tightrope walk. Every conversation, every glance, every gesture loaded with tension and silent questions. It was a chilly evening, one that should have found us cuddled together. Yet Aiden paced the room restlessly while Mark slept, oblivious to the storm around him. Suddenly, Aiden stopped and faced me, his expression hard, his voice even harsher. "Ellie, I can't take this anymore. We're doing a DNA test for Mark." My heart dropped. A DNA test? Are you out of your mind, Aiden? His face was set, resolute. It's not just about us, Ellie. I want Kevin to take the test too. That statement hit me like a physical blow. Kevin? Your brother? You seriously think? Aiden interrupted, firm and unyielding. You've heard my mom. There are doubts, Ellie, and they're consuming me. I was shaking with fury. So your mom's irrational fears are driving this? What happened to trusting your wife? His reply was icy. This isn't just about trust. It's about certainty. I need to know for sure. Tears welled up as I countered. And if I say no, what then, Aiden? His answer was chilling. If you refuse, you and Mark can't stay. I need to sort this out, and I can't do that with you here. I stared at him, disbelief and anger warring within me. You'd kick out your wife and son just like that? He wouldn't meet my gaze. That's the way it has to be, Ellie. I spent a restless night, consumed by anger and despair. The next morning I confronted Aiden again, hoping he had come to his senses. Holding Mark in my arms, I pleaded, Aiden, we need to talk. You can't be serious about this. Aiden was distant, resolute. I've thought it over, Ellie. The test happens or you leave. That's final. I couldn't hold back my tears. This is insane, Aiden. You're letting your mother's paranoia come between us. He remained unmoved. It's not about choosing sides. It's about finding the truth. I was astounded at how far Violet's influence had reached, threatening to shatter our family under the weight of her baseless suspicions. As the weight of Aiden's doubts pressed heavily on us, it became painfully clear that our marriage was faltering under the strain. What about us, Aiden? What about our marriage? I asked, desperation seeping into my voice. Aiden sighed, his eyes clouded with a mixture of regret and confusion. I don't know, Ellie. Right now, I just need answers. With a heavy heart, I packed our bags. Mark, innocent and unaware, continued to play as I struggled to hold back tears. We moved to my mom's place temporarily. Once there, I couldn't hold it in any longer. He's making us take a DNA test, Mom. He's lost his mind. I vented, tears streaming down my face. My mom wrapped her arms around me, her voice tinged with anger and disbelief. That boy is throwing away his family over some nonsense. You're better than this, Ellie. I don't even recognize him anymore. I sobbed into her shoulder. She held me tight, her support unwavering. You're strong, Ellie. You'll get through this. We'll get through this together. The doubts Aiden harbored not only tore our family apart, but also eroded the love and trust that once bound us. Now, I was left facing a future riddled with uncertainties. A single mother with a shattered heart trying to make sense of the wreckage. After days of agony, I gave in to Aiden's demand for a DNA test. It felt like surrendering to a storm, but I saw no other choice. From my mom's house, I called Aiden to inform him of my decision. Aiden, I'll do the damn test, I said, my voice as steady as I could manage. There was a pause on the other end before he replied. Okay, I'll arrange it, and Kevin agreed to do it too. I clenched my phone tighter, anger and resignation mixing within me. Fine, let's just get this over with. A week later, the results were in. My heart pounded as we gathered at the clinic. Aiden, Kevin, Violet, and Violet, who had insisted on being there, wore a smug look as if she had already won. Aiden's hands were trembling as he opened the envelope handed to him by the nurse. We all held our breath as he read. Finally, Aiden looked up, his face unreadable. "I'm the father," he said, his voice flat. "Mark's my son." Relief washed over me, and I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I had been holding. "I told you, Aiden." "I told you," I said, though my voice was more tired than triumphant. Violet's face morphed into a picture of shock and disbelief. "But how?" she stammered. "Yeah, you were sure," Kevin interjected, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Sure about ruining our family with your paranoia." Aiden just sat there, the results in his hands, looking utterly lost. "I don't know what to say," he murmured. Furious, tears streamed down my face. "You want to say something now, after you put us through hell?" Aiden reached out, but I pulled away. "Don't, Aiden. Just don't." Kevin stood, his anger palpable. "I can't believe you did this, Aiden. You and Mom, you two deserve each other." Violet tried to intervene, but Kevin cut her off. "No, Mom, you've done enough. I'm done with this." With those words, he walked out, leaving Aiden and Violet sitting there, confronted by the proof of their unfounded doubts. As for me, I felt empty inside. The test had vindicated me, but at what cost? My marriage? My trust in Aiden? It had all been torn apart. I walked out of that clinic knowing that things would never be the same. The day of reckoning had come. I decided it was time to bring everything out into the open. I invited Aiden, his brother Kevin, and their mother Violet to my mom's house for one final confrontation. The atmosphere was charged as they walked in. "Thanks for coming," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "There's a lot we need to discuss." Violet sat down with her usual sour expression, stiff and defensive. "Well, I'm here. Let's hear it," she said. Hayden seemed uncomfortable as he shifted in his seat across from me. "Ellie, I've been thinking. Maybe we can just forget all this happened and start over. You know." His suggestion, hopeful yet naive, made me scoff inwardly. "Forget?" I replied, incredulity edging my tone. "Oh, Aiden, you have no idea." From beneath the table, I pulled out the divorce papers and placed them abruptly in front of him. His expression morphed from surprise to confusion. "Divorce? Why, Ellie?" "I thought we could work through this," he stammered, clearly caught off guard. That's when I revealed the final blow. A folder filled with photographs. I tossed it across the table to him. As Aiden thumbed through the photos, his complexion turned ghostly pale. Each picture showed him getting uncomfortably close to another woman. He opened his mouth to speak, but faltered, finding no words. Violet, unable to resist, snatched the photos. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "This doesn't prove anything." "She's not right for you anyway, Aiden," she insisted, her denial thick in the air. I was livid. "Oh, it proves a lot, Violet. It shows Aiden's hypocrisy. He accused me of cheating, and yet here he is, the real cheater." Kevin, who had been quietly observing, finally let his disgust show. "I can't believe you, Aiden. All this time, you were pointing fingers at Ellie, and you are the guilty one." Aiden attempted to explain, but Kevin cut him off sharply. "Save it, Aiden. I'm done with this. With you. With Mom's manipulations." He stood, his decision clear, and headed for the door. Violet reached for him desperately. "Michael, please." But Kevin shrugged her off. "No, Mom. You and Aiden have gone too far this time." With that, he left, his departure leaving a heavy silence behind. Violet, still clutching the photos, turned to Aiden. "You can do better than her. you'll see. But Aiden, still reeling from the revelations, remained silent, a picture of betrayal and guilt. I faced them, my resolve hardened. You've both made your beds. Now you can lie in them. I'm done being part of this toxic mess. Violet opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand, stopping her. No, Violet, there's nothing left to say. You've lost a daughter-in-law and a son today. I hope it was worth it. As they left, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness wash over me. I turned to my mom, who had been a steadfast pillar of strength through the ordeal. It's over, Mom. Justice. She hugged me tightly. You did the right thing, Ellie. We're here for you always. After the dust settled, the divorce was finalized. The court granted me alimony and compensation for Aiden's betrayal. It was a small victory in the grand scheme of things, but it felt like justice. One day, Violet showed up at my doorstep, desperation and guilt etching her features. Ellie, I need to see Mark. He's my grandson. I stood in the doorway, blocking her path. Not a chance, Violet. After everything you've done, you think you have the right to see him. She tried to push past me, but I stood firm, an unyielding guardian to the new peace I had fought so hard to secure. Standing my ground firmly at the doorway, I faced Violet with an unyielding resolve. I'm his grandmother, Ellie. You can't keep me from seeing him. She argued desperately. Watch me, I replied coldly. You lost that right when you tore this family apart. Violet's expression contorted with anger as she accused me of being unreasonable. Unreasonable? No, Violet. To us, you're no longer family, I countered sharply. Her departure was lonely and defeated. Later, I learned that Kevin had moved away from the city, severing ties with both Violet and Aiden. He couldn't bear the destruction their actions had wrought on what was once a loving family. As for Aiden, he made several attempts to reconnect, but I dismissed each one. You have your mother to thank for this mess, I told him curtly during one of his calls. Don't bother calling again. Left alone, Aiden was forced to face the consequences of his decisions with only Violet's company, who he now blamed for everything that had gone wrong. Life gradually moved forward. I concentrated on raising Mark and advancing my career, rebuilding our lives piece by piece. My mother was a steadfast source of support, aiding me in navigating the challenges of single motherhood. One quiet evening, while Mark was asleep and I savored a cup of tea, my mother sat beside me. You did the right thing, Ellie. It wasn't easy, but it was the right decision, she reassured me. I nodded in agreement, feeling the weight of our past struggle. It's just us now, but we're stronger for it. The betrayal, the lies, and the heartache were now behind us. Ahead lay a future filled with hope and the promise of something better. Aiden and Violet had become part of a past best left forgotten. This was our time, our opportunity to start anew, and I was ready to embrace it. Fully confident in the strength and resilience that my mother and I shared.